Hello there. I have a message for you from Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada. Listen.
Really easy when you're in a short-term survive. I got to be able to pay the rent this month. I got to be able to buy groceries for my kids to say, okay, let's put climate change as a slightly lower priority. And that's something that's instinctive. When the storm comes, you want to hunker down and just sort of huddle up and wait for it to blow over. We can't do that around climate change. And unfortunately, we have an awful lot of political amplification of the kind of narrative that is directly opposed to that.
So, what did you just say? Oh yeah, that due to you wanting to pay rent and feed your kids more than you want to fight climate change, there is the political amplification of the narrative against climate change. And he says it's very easy to value your kids and your ability to not be homeless over fighting climate change. But we can't do that. We can't even do it to the extent that you put climate change at a slightly lower priority. So not just ignoring climate change, putting it at a slightly lower priority than feeding your kids and paying your rent is something that we just can't do. So, how exactly are they going to do this? Well, we have this from just 3 days ago, as of the making of this video. Fact or fake? Brazil, UN, and UNESCO launch global initiative for information integrity on climate change. What are they trying to do? Very simple. It's within the G20, so the 20 large economies framework. And the initiative is being established to dedicate a dedicated multilateral collaboration among states of international organizations to fund research and action prompting information integrity on climate issues. What they mean is to silence and censor anyone who disagrees with them, and to research how to use the amount of power they have with social media and the science of psychology in order to gaslight you into agreeing with them. They're saying they have an initial goal of raising $10 to $15 million over the next 36 months, so year and a half. These funds will be distributed as grants to non-governmental organizations conducting research on climate information integrity, developing communication strategies, and carrying out public awareness campaigns. So again, what they're trying to do is censor any disagreement. They're trying to develop strategies to gaslight you, to get you to agree with them, and then carry out public awareness campaigns, aka operations, to brainwash you. We must fight the coordinated disinformation campaigns impeding global progress on climate change, ranging from outright denial to greenwashing to harassment of climate scientists. Through this initiative, we will work with researchers and partners to strengthen action against climate disinformation. I wonder who decides what is true and what is fake, because there have been a lot of things that the mainstream media and even governments have said in the past that were proven to be fake things over time. So how come they are the ones who are arbiters of truth rather than the public who voted for them, that they're supposed to be public servants of? That's, I think, a fair question. And here's an example of what they're going to do. Flatulence tax. Denmark agrees deal for livestock emissions levy. So Denmark has agreed on how to implement the world's first tax on agricultural emissions, including flatulence by livestock. They essentially want them a levy of $43 per ton of methane as per carbon dioxide equivalent on emissions from livestock, including cows and pigs, which will rise to 750 kroner, which is over double. It's 2.5 times the base one, which is 300 kroner. So you're going to have to pay, what is that, $110 or so per ton of methane by 2035. So in the next 11 years, it's going to be 2.5 times more than it currently just now implemented as. Essentially, they want to shut down all manufacturing of animal products, except for those who are very, very rich. That's what's going to happen if they do this, right? You'll have small farms that will be very exclusive. They will produce very, very expensive stuff. So milk, meat, chicken, eggs, that's what's going to happen. It's all going to be very expensive and exclusive only for the 1% or less. And the rest of us will have to either eat like lab-grown stuff or replacements, for example, bugs, which is something that we've been told to eat for a very long time now by the same UN scientists. They are going to make you impoverished and hungry and sick if you let them. Honestly, people like Trudeau disgust me. I won't get into the climate change argument itself. I will point out that the people who push for it, for example, Barack Obama, tend to buy houses on the beachfront property where their own administration has deemed it's going to be underwater in less than a decade. How wise you think the choice to buy something that's supposed to be submerged in less than 10 years? I don't think it's wise at all. Now, do you think Barack Obama is that dumb, or is he a hypocrite? I'm not saying that climate change is wrong. I am questioning whether Barack Obama is a hypocrite on climate change, that's all. So, no, I do not think that fighting climate change is more important than feeding your kids or paying your rent. I do not think we need to have a tax on livestock being livestock. I do not think it's a good idea to restrict the consumption of the food that humans have eaten for thousands of years to a small minority of very rich and influential people, while everybody else has to eat very questionable replacements that the not government experts, but actual real experts that have a good name and are publicly supported for their work on the science and health of let's say food and nutrition. I do believe that these people are very against lab-grown meat and bugs and all sorts of other replacements, and they would tell you to eat the same diet as your ancestors because that's what your body is designed to process. But, well, if you keep electing people like Justin Trudeau, then it'll become impossible for you to keep doing it. You will have to switch your diet because of economic pressure. You'll have no choice. And one of the things that they love doing is creating government policy to enforce their agenda without actually having a law to make it so. Meaning as little outright forcing and as much prodding to create social change. In this way, they can minimize the backlash, which is awful for us because we want to maximize the backlash because we want to stop their agenda. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. My goal as a political actor in the very limited capacity that I am currently, because I have very little in terms of viewers for now, I'm just starting out. Hopefully it'll change. But my goal is to be a part of the movement that helps push back on what they're doing and hopefully remove them from power so that they can no longer threaten us, because in my opinion their entire agenda is done in bad faith and it is exceedingly dangerous to our health and freedom. In my opinion, if they are allowed to keep going, we will arrive at a very dystopian and horrible place. I remember that Jordan Peterson defined hell as the situation where the largest amount of people are suffering as much as possible. And in my opinion, you are going to go exceedingly close to that definition of hell if you keep going on the progressive track. You're going to have all freedoms rescinded from the population. You're going to have no privacy whatsoever and maximum dependency on government. You will not be able to do anything because every piece of equipment in your house, every electronic item is going to be smart, and you will depend on essentially the goodwill of the corporation that manufactured it in order to keep using it. You'll have a smart house in a smart city. Cars will not be personal. There'll be probably smart cars too, and like self-driving. Think about like 10 years in the future. What I'm talking about is something that they're definitely talking of doing, and they're developing technology and the infrastructure for. You'll have CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. You'll have digital IDs. You won't be able to use any piece of electronic equipment at all without the consent of the large corporations. And large corporations will be very centralized, and they will be merged with the state. And that's where they're going. We can see it very clearly. fact that every single lawmaker has a bunch of lobbyists surrounding him at all times, and that the government asks for favors and even gives demands to corporations to help with their agenda, like we've seen with the Twitter files when Elon Musk bought X. The future I'm painting here is not a conspiracy theory, it's the obvious evolution of the current trends. And it is only things like the election of Donald Trump and the efforts of Elon Musk that push back on that future, which is exactly what I want to see. I do not want to live monitored 24/7. I do not want to live with monitoring under my skin. If you listen to Yuval Noah Harari from the World Economic Forum, then you will know that this is something that they are very excited about. Monitoring you under the skin and knowing more about you than you know yourself. I am wholly opposed to it. In fact, I see it as the beginning of the end for the freedom and soul of mankind. So I definitely think that we need to be wary of green agendas. They started out with things like clean water and air and soil. They started out with removing plastic pollution, battery pollution, talking about the dangers of cell phones. Do you remember we had very old cell phones and everybody was talking about how they can cause cancer and can cause all sorts of other problems, and now we use cell phones that are far more powerful than ever before, but somehow nobody talks about the dangers of using them. At most they'll tell you not to be too close to it or something. That would not have been enough with the old versions. How is it enough with the new versions? Very strange, right? Not to mention all these rich people that essentially decide to live near large telescopes and other space projects that just get interfered with by radiation. So, we have no choice but to make it forbidden to use microwaves and cell phones in these areas. And that's exactly where all the people choose to live. Do you think they know something that they don't want us to know? Probably not, right? There's probably no health reason for choosing that place to live specifically. What can I say? Becoming healthy is a very big struggle in the modern world. Despite the fact that we have the technology to manufacture 100 times, 1,000 times more efficiently than people before the Industrial Revolution did, we are faced with great difficulty in just maintaining basic health, and chronic diseases are on the rise in unprecedented scale. If you stop eating animal products, if you stop eating meat, drinking milk, eating eggs, fish, and so on, you will very quickly see your health deteriorate. I am not a health expert, that's just my personal opinion. All the same, I think there is a very strong scientific basis to claim so. If you allow this green revolution in agriculture to advance, and we see the same thing in Britain, not the flatulence tax, which is a very, how to put it, unique and hilarious development, if it wasn't real. But they're talking there about taking, I believe, close to 40% of the worth of a farm when it is inherited. So if a farmer is gone, and his children are supposed to inherit it, the government takes 40%. Now, farming is based on very expensive land and equipment, but the profit margins, as far as I understood, are very, very small. So as a result, they own land and equipment worth a lot of money, but their income is small, and in order to pay 40% of the worth of the land and the farm, they would have to sell it, or at least large parts of it, because otherwise they just can't muster the funds to do so. Now, what's going to happen if every farmer, or not every second farmer, let's say, starts selling land? Well, the price of land is going to deteriorate, it's going to degrade, and who's going to buy all of that? Well, I know, BlackRock and Bill Gates and similar actors, just like they're doing in the US. The largest landowner, largest farmland owner now in the US is Bill Gates. And the man is very questionable ethically, in my personal opinion. And I don't want to see food manufacturing centralized in the hands of any one actor either. Because if that actor makes stupid decisions, or let alone is malignant, is not acting in good faith, then awful stuff is going to happen to the public at large, because you need to eat. Control the food, control the people. Incidentally, it's not just controlling whether you can eat, it's also controlling what you eat. So if he decides, for example, to use certain pesticides that might not be good for you, well, suddenly you'll have a lot of food on the market that is that way, which will make food that isn't full of these awful pesticides more expensive. And if you are not rich enough, you will be forced to eat these pesticides. So he can control your health, not just control you through denying you food. I think this is dystopian to the extreme. We need to fight it. We need to say no more, put restrictions on large corporations and rich individuals buying farmland, buying land in general, in my opinion. Just don't let them. Don't let foreign actors buy your land in your homeland. If somebody wants to move there and live there, fair enough, but allowing them to just buy a ton of land, or let alone housing, that's one of the things that raises housing prices. If foreigners decide to just buy these houses as assets, then you suddenly don't have enough houses for the people who actually live there. And then suddenly you have inflated prices and people who are eternal renters, which is awful. The basis of personal independence is owning a house, is not having to pay rent, because then suddenly you have freed such a large part of your income. It used to be that people talked about a third of your income going to rent. Now you hear people saying that a half or more of their income goes into rent. If you can't own your own home, you are not free financially. It's also about stability. It's just a requirement for a happy human life, in my opinion, to own your own house at some point, and it should be as soon as possible in a person's life. It shouldn't be something that is only until retirement you have to work for it, in my opinion. And it wasn't that way before, Back in our parents' and grandparents' time, you could afford a home with far less of how to put it, an investment of time and money than it is today. I believe, did I ever make a video about that? I'd have to look back and see. Maybe I can make one if I didn't. But it used to be, I think, over twice as easy or more to afford a house in terms of the amount of salaries, especially if you take into account the percentage of your income that you could reasonably save up back then, because it's not just house prices that inflated, it's all prices, food, clothes, everything. The green agenda must be stopped, in my personal opinion, and in order to do so, we cannot count on our politicians, especially politicians who are not exceedingly hated by the left and very controversial. So you might say that someone like Javier Milei or Donald Trump would try to stop it. I'm not sure if they can alone, but at the very least they'd put an effort into it. But someone like, for example, Nigel Farage, who I used to respect for his contributions to Brexit, now seems to be far too entrenched into the mainstream to actually do something controversial enough to make a difference. It's about immigration, it's about the green agenda, it's about everything. And the left has gone so far left that we absolutely, not only can we not agree with them, we cannot agree to disagree with them. Meaning we cannot coexist in disagreement. Their agenda is too much. It's too dangerous. It cannot be borne. It has to be stopped. So hopefully we can do so in democratic means. Hopefully we can do so through economic pressure. Hopefully we can come together and put pressure on the system until the system is forced to turn around. Until the specific operators within the system that are pushing this can be replaced. Because the alternative does not bear thinking of. I am not looking forward to any of it. I'm not advocating anyone to do anything violent, of course. Don't be stupid, don't give them ammunition, don't do anything immoral. But if we allow them to control the food and to do whatever they want with it, it'll end badly for all of us. That's my 2 cents. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.